So the person that has the clean record, or the person coaching. I don't understand how it all works in manipulation. Thank you for attending the Public Improvement and Safety Committee, Monday, October 17th, 2022. Clerk, will you take roll call, please?
Chairman Kidd?
Here.
Vice Chairman Bailey? Here. Trustee Sipes is absent. Mr. James?
Here. No, Schmidt.
What?
You said trustee Sipes was absent.
Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Schmidt. I'm sorry, I just saw the S. I'm so very sorry. Mr. James is not here. Mr. Nelson?
Here.
And Mrs. Baines? Here. We have 4 present.
We have enough for a quorum. Thank you, clerk. Next on the agenda is approval for minutes of September 19th, 2022. May I please have a motion?
So moved. Second.
I have first by Ms. Bailey, a second by Ms. Bain. All in favor, any corrections or adjustments to the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is, all those who oppose, say nay. The motion is passed. Next on the agenda is Resolution 48R22, Professional Service Agreement with Engineering Services for Forest Hills Road Offsite Stormwater Management Improvement and Gateway Pond Remediation. May I please have a motion?
So made.
Second.
I have a first by Mr. Nelson, a second by Ms. Bailey, a third by Ms. Bain. May I please have staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Both these projects are located in the same general geographic area. Essentially, the Gateway Pond is the recipient of what will be the offsite storm sewer improvements for Forest Hills Road. So we're starting the Forest Hills Road process. It's going to be a 4-year process. And we're going to basically build the road to an urban standard, so curb and gutter. And of course, that requires storm sewer improvements. The storm drainage system actually starts at Gateway Pond, which is the large pond behind Target and Home Depot. And the path the storm sewer will take is pretty much going to be outside the right of way for the most part. We save a lot of cost by staying out of the roadway, so we don't have to remove and replace pavement and inconvenience, vehicular traffic during construction. That's going to require quite a bit of coordination, though, through design with all the business owners and property owners, because we are essentially going through easements. It also is going to require quite a bit of coordination with the sanitary district and North Park Water, because we have a number of utility crossings. And if you look at the schematic design that was in your packet, essentially we're trying to keep that storm sewer above the sanitary sewer if we possibly can. We don't want to take out sanitary sewer and replace it. It's difficult to do, and it costs a bunch of money, so we have to bypass pump, and a lot of these sewers are actually having heavy flow. The first thing we have to do is to do a hydrologic model of the area. So we simulate a rainfall event and figure out how much runoff we have to manage. And then we take that data and plug it into a hydraulic model and actually size the pipe. And then we do a detailed design after that to figure out the route alignment. If you looked at your packet, there is one thing I do want to note. There's a low area of Forest Hills Road that's just north of Hawks View and Eagles View. And in fact, a few weeks ago, we had a rainfall over a weekend. The road almost flooded. We've been fairly fortunate that we do not have development much development that's tributary to that area. That development obviously increases the volume of runoff, so the amount of water coming at those dry wells would increase, and we would see that road flood quite a bit. Obviously, with Hennig moving forward, we have development right next door to that low area. So this is going hand in hand with TIF improvements that are being made. So the TIF is actually going to fund both of these projects. With that, I'd answer any questions on the Forest Hills project before I jump into the Gateway Pond improvements.
Any questions for Mr. Dopkins?
Moving on, the Gateway Pond was constructed in the 1990s as part of the first TIF. Tom will probably remember this. When Menards was built, they needed a source of fill to build up that area because it was prone to flooding. The developer also needed to construct a detention pond. So those two things went hand in hand, and the pond was created, and it sat in an interim state for the better part of about 15 years or so until Home Depot and Target developed, and then the same thing happened. We took fill out of that pond. We built up the pads and the parking lots for Target and Home Depot. So Target and Home Depot drains into that pond. the industrial park on the north side of Steel Drive. That whole area drains down into the pond. And then there's some offsite water that comes into that pond as well from Hawksview, Forest Hills Industrial Park, and of course the creek, which goes all the way back up to I-90. Over the years, that pond was designed originally to infiltrate water, and it stayed dry for the better part of 10 years, and slowly but surely, we've seen the performance of the pond deteriorate. Along with that, we are now an MS4. We have a duty to treat stormwater to the maximum extent practical, whatever that is. Someday, EPA will define that for us, but until then, we are on our own. We actually have an opportunity with the pond to make future maintenance, a lot easier for public works staff to conduct, so we don't get to the point that we're at right now. We also have an opportunity to change the inlet structure of the pond in order to trap what we call first flush pollutants, and then we can get those out. So the pond itself can actually act as a best management practice, a treatment device for essentially the tributary area to it, all the way up to I-90. So we have, an opportunity to contain all of our future maintenance in one place, which obviously is very cost effective. So we have a number of goals for the project: reestablish the infiltration. The pond over the years is just, things have overgrown. We have noxious weeds in there. We have trees that are dead. It is really not very aesthetically pleasing for the industrial park. We do have development around it now. Obviously, reestablish the infiltration and then modify it to make it easier to maintain and to provide stormwater treatment for the basin upstream. So both of those projects, again, are in the same area. I don't foresee them going under one contract. I foresee two contracts because we have permitting, we have easements we need to obtain for the Forest Hills Road offsite improvements. So it's going to be kind of difficult, to combine the two into one project. One last thing I'd like to note is you've noticed probably the engineering percentage is a lot lower than you're used to seeing as part of construction costs. A lot of that's due to the fact that construction costs are just really high. Our costs have remained relatively stable, but the construction industry has seen a considerable increase in costs. So that's one of the reasons that the percentages are down. Secondly, there's a few things that we don't have to do, especially with the pond project. We really don't need to be out there full time with the contractors. They're doing things, we can spot check them. So that helps save a bit of time as well. With that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Dopkins? Seeing none, may I please have a roll call vote?
Chairman Kidd,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Bailey,
Aye.
Mr. Nelson,
Aye.
Mrs. Baines,
Aye.
4 ayes.
The motion is passed. Next on the agenda is report. Does anybody on the committee have any reports? I have one. I would like to thank Mr. Dopkins for, the 3 or 4 phone calls about Harlem Road that I've given him over the summer. And I know my constituents are excited to have the road finished. So I just want to say thank you for taking my phone calls.
You are very welcome. Anytime.
Next on the agenda is adjournment. May I please have a motion to adjourn?
So made.
Second.
I have a first by Ms. Bain, a second by Mr. Nelson. All in favor, say aye. Those who oppose, say nay. The motion is passed. Meeting is adjourned.